Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first podcast recorded on Zoom in these very strange days. Today, I am talking to someone I know very well. It's my brother, Andy Braidwood. Hello, Andy.
Hi, Ali. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Now, as well as being my brother, we share similar tastes in music, and we have, I'm pleased to say. And you've also, in recent years, been putting on gigs up in Braemar, which we've written about in Scots Whay, and stuff like that.
Yeah, amazing gigs. Not through any credit to me, but just the acts that we had have all been. They've just been such. It sounds a bit hippie, but there have been really beautiful nights. You know, really lovely, warm, receptive crowd and lovely, just a really amazing special nights.
Should I explain a little bit further? You've got a gallery up in Braemar, and during the day, it is a gallery. But recently, in recent years at nights, you've been putting on these gigs, which, as you say, have been really special evenings. But we thought, as a bit of a tester to see if this actually works, that we'd have a chat about some of our favourite records. And we're going to have a few parameters here. We're going to talk about 10 albums each that we listened to in our formative years, let's say before we turned 20 or before 1990. Is that what you've done?
I've kept mine all to before the 90s.
Well, it's before the 90s for me because that's when I did turn 20. So same type of thing. We've kept them all Scottish, I believe. I certainly have.
Yeah, tenuously, yeah.
Yep, I've got a few tenuous ones. I've got one very tenuous one. And absolutely. And we're just going to, and they are for me, they're the ones that I genuinely played at the time. In fact, I've even got them sitting here. It's not a case of, later on when I was listening to a lot more music, I was getting into Alex Harvey Band and Rosillos and various other people that I didn't listen to in my teens. So I thought we would stick to the records that meant the most of us at the time.
Yes, so, it's quite revealing, really. I've had to be quite honest because they were the ones that I was listening to at the time. It's not.
Oh no, absolutely. Me too. We could have. You could have had a bit of gerrymandering and changed things about, or revisionist history. But the good thing about this is we would both know if we were lying.
Not exactly. You lie.
Yeah, you never like that. What are you talking about?
You just want to look cool in front of your friends.
Well, yes. So we're in front of each other and we cannot look cool, let's face it. That boat has sailed. Okay, so let's kick off. Since you're the guest on the show, we're going to start off with yourself. So what have you picked as your number one choice of vinyl? I should say mine aren't all albums. There's some EPs in there as well. But what's your first choice?
Well, my first choice for me was my most, maybe it's not to anyone else but me, but my most obvious choice. The thing that came to mind for me was the Sonic Flower Groove by Primal Scream, the first Primal Scream album. And there was some brilliant singles before that. And I think that one, can you see that?
Yes, we can see it.
That's Imperial, isn't it? Yeah, that's Imperial, which I managed to get quite recently in Aberdeen. So I was dead chuffed about that. But if I'm shouting, I've got noise-cancelling headphones on, so just tell me if I'm shouting.
Okay, no, you sound fine.
Right, so Sonic Flower Groove, which, yes, I hadn't, at that age, I hadn't heard of the Birds. I just hadn't heard them. I was of an age where... So this was my introduction into that kind of sound, the jangly 12-string guitars, and I think seeing them on FSD.
Oh yes, absolutely.
A Scottish programme which was on at the time. What does FSD stand for? I had no idea.
I'd have to Google that and find out.
Yeah,
but it was on, in my memory, it wasn't like a late night thing. It was kind of on 6 or 7 o'clock at night on BBC Two. Would that be right?
No idea, Ali. I knew we had a VHS of it and I watched it to death. It was the same episode with BMX Bandits were on. Reagan and the Rockets were on it.
Reagan and the Rockets, yeah.
Reagan and the Rockets, and Primal Scream, and it was the 12-string Rickenbacker, the Jim Beattie oblique Navajo's hat, the whole thing. It was just so cool to me. The leather trousers, the whole thing. It was just it was my crystallization point to being into that kind of thing.
It's interesting because a lot of people really didn't get into Primal Scream until Screamadelica and the kind of club stuff and whatever came after that. But these records are very different. The first two are very different. In fact, the first two are very different from each other, because one's the Birds and then the next one's kind of MC5, isn't it? I
think Primal Scream have always been record fans,
yeah, absolutely,
music fans. So they'll do an MC5 album, or they'll do a Stones album, or they'll do a Birds album. It's kind of how they did it. They almost weren't. It was music made by music fans.
Yeah, they were always kind of magpies, and they went to their record collection to say, "This is what I'm into now." So exactly, you had your kind of 60s Rolling Stones records, and then you had your Can record, and all of they were very interesting for that reason, and I think maybe underrated for that reason, because people think, oh, they don't do their own thing. They do, but they're just influenced by what they're listening to at the time. And that Birds record, the first one, is amazing.
Just looking into it this afternoon when I was thinking about it, I had no idea at the time. It reached number 62 in the UK charts.
Wow.
Yeah, it's bonkers. Because
it probably sold quite a few.
I probably would to get there, but it's I just love all the songs on that. They're kind of, like I say, it's the 12-string Rickenbacker and the I don't know, that kind of almost thin 80s production on them, which I quite like as well.
I mean, it was, Bobby Gillespie played drums with the Jesus and Mary chain, and it came out of that whole, a indie, really hardcore indie movement that there was. You were saying that it reached number 62 in the charts, but you remember you always had the indie charts in the
that's right.
at that time, and I'm guessing it would have been very high up there.
In fact, just when you were mentioning Screamadelica, when that came out, I had really no idea what to make of it, because it was so foreign to me. It was just like, I don't know what this is. I love it now, and I just wouldn't be without Screamadelica at all. But at the time, it was just, you've got the first record, you've got Primal Scream, which is amazing as well to me, and then suddenly, whoa, curveball,
Yeah, I mean, I know people that love those two records that really don't like what they've done since. That was their band, that kind of jangle pop, leather trued band, and with Jugs on tambourine. I should mention that as well.
Absolutely.
A very important part of the early sound.
This is my Playmobil version. Where's my camera?
Excellent.
He just needs a wee tambourine.
He does indeed.
Just needs a wee tambourine.
Oh, fantastic.
Good. No, that's like my, one of my favourite, as you know, my favourite 12-inch records is Velocity Girl. Well, it's the B-side is Velocity Girl, but I love that record. Just play that all the time. It's so short, but it's just perfect.
Perfect pop songs, absolutely. Right, so my first choice, I am going to go with the mighty Simple Minds.
Nice.
And Sister Feelings Call, which I think officially is their fifth album, although it came out roughly about the same time as Sons and Fascination. Simple Minds are a much maligned band, and in some cases rightly so. If anyone was aware of their work, got into them roughly about, Belfast Child, Mandela Day, big stadium rock, they were kind of the worst aspect of that at that time. It seemed, that charity pop movement that there was going on. But if you go to their early albums, going right back to the late 70s, which were almost taking European electronica and doing their own thing with it. They're amazing records, absolutely incredible records. And this, I think, was the first one that I sort of got into. And I think it's the one where they start to move towards that bigger sound, the New Gold Dream, 81, 82, 83, 84 in brackets. And then Sparkle in the Rain, and then getting bigger and bigger and bigger until it almost kind of imploded in on itself, unfortunately. And they weren't the only band to do that, I have to say. But they did it in some style. I kind of lost. I usually give a band maybe one album too much if I really like them. I think I gave them Once Upon a Time and thought, okay, they're still good. But actually, looking back now, you know, New Gold Dream was maybe the last time they were really at the top of their game.
I bought Street Fighting Years.
Well, I don't think I did. I think that was Belfast Child, wasn't it? And the Street Fighting Years itself.
Really sort of bombastic. Like you say, it was all conscious, politically led and so forth. They just banged up the production on it way too much. Because when you listen to these early albums like Sister Feeling's Call and Empires and Dance, which has got the brilliant I Travel on it, and then you've got Love Song. These are amazing songs, which are actually very fragile and you know, for guys from like Kilmarnock and Tory Glen to be making this music was exceptional. Just quite incredible. Is Derek Forbes playing the bass on that one?
I believe Derek Forbes was playing the bass on that one, because you've got the song The American, which I think is where I first heard them, probably on the radio, on Radio Clyde or Radio Scotland or whatever, was the song The American, which has got the fantastic bass line in it. And this is a very important record to me, and I think
I remember it well.
Probably for me, Simple Minds at the height of their powers. Personally, they would go on to big hits and stuff like that and sell out much bigger places. But this is when they were at their most interesting, and just before they went into the proper pop phase.
The beret with the badge on it and the tight trousers.
A lot of blues on action going on.
There's a lot of blues, nice blouse.
And
smashing blouse.
He looked a bit like a Shakespearean actor. Yeah. You know, he should have had a skull in his hand at one point, Jim. God bless him. I've seen Simple Minds live many times, and cracking frontman Jim Kerr. It's super.
You can't knock it, really.
No,
but
you could knock some of it. But no, it was much of its time. And they changed as a lot of other bands did when they became huge. So, number 2 for you, Andy, what have we got?
I'm just going to choose another one at random. I've got my list of 10 here, but they're not in any order. And I'm sorry if it goes... I don't know if we double up, because we haven't spoken about this.
No, we could do. That would be interesting.
I will say Hats by the Blue Nile, the second album.
Now, before you get onto it, most people that know me know that Hats is my all-time favourite record. I've banged about on it in other places enough, and I've written about it. And I thought, I'm not going to do that because I have spoken about Hats enough. It is the record that I have given more people than anything else, than anything else. So, you want to hear something new? Try this. And now I think, hopefully, the world knows it. But so why do you love Hats? Because it is my favourite album.
Well, first of all, when I was looking at the sleeve notes and stuff today, I didn't realise it came out in 89.
89.
I thought it was I don't know why I thought that, and I thought it was the first record. I don't know why I thought that either. Just because I just love the sound of it. It is.
Surely Walk Across. Did you not know Walk Across the Rooftops was the first one?
I didn't know that.
Okay.
No, I didn't know that. But this one, because you had it maybe, and then it was actually a person we know quite well, Gavin T. Sent me a Radio Plum mixtape or mix CD, and it had this was the opening. Over the Hillside was the opening tune on this mixtape, and it just stayed with me. That sound, I don't know whether it's a Lindrum or whatever it is. It's this very, very stripped back sound, very atmospheric. And it's just one of those albums that you just like to exist in that space for, however long it is. 38 minutes and 26 seconds, it says here.
It's a work of art from beginning to end, no doubt about it.
Yeah, yeah. And it's just one of those things you just like to. There's very few albums that I would put on and then you have to listen to the whole thing, you know. The KLF Chill Out would be one of those, you know, you just don't touch it, just leave it alone. That's one of those albums for me.
I think I'm just thinking actually, because you might not believe it, listeners and viewers, but there's 3 years between the two of us. So I guess when Walk Across the Rooftops came out, and I'm going to talk a little bit about at least one of the songs from that later, I would be 13, I think it was 83. So you would have been 10, so probably you wouldn't necessarily have listened to that weird stuff that was coming out.
Because there was a big hiatus, wasn't there? They went to record the new album, and they couldn't get it together, or whatever it was.
7 years, I think, between. So that means 83 and 89. So that would be it. Right. And then, of course, they went on to be known for these huge gaps between their all brilliant records. I think all of the Blue Nile records are brilliant.
And I think he talks about them being more like novels. Paul, the singer.
Paul Buchanan.
Correct me, Ali. Paul Buchanan. I've heard him talking about these as existing like novels, you know, and each one is its own entity and so forth. And I just, really like that. So that was mine. That's my.
What a choice! What a fine choice.
Well, I thought you might have chosen it, but
yeah. Well, I was going to, but as I say, I've done. Last year, I was on Postcards from the Underground Radio show, and I spoke to Gary and Mark about hats and raved about it. And anytime anyone has me on a show, I usually do it. So I thought, since I'm on my own, I would allow someone else to talk about it. Nice, nice cool. Coughing in the sleeve up there. I enjoyed that.
I've been watching the public information films.
So next up for me, Sulk by the Associates.
Nice, yes, very nice. Yeah.
So again, a bit like the American. Look, we've spoken about this before. Radio was a big part in us growing up. How we took music in. You know, the radio was always on. Either we listened to it ourselves or in the kitchen or whatever. And there were certain songs that came on that just, you know, blew your mind. And I think seeing the Associates on Top of the Pops doing Party Fears 2 was one of those occasions. And then you learnt they were from Dundee. And, you know, it's one thing saying, Simple Minds are from the south side of Glasgow, but for me, to hear this noise and these guys, Alan Rankin and, of course, Billy Mackenzie, playing this bizarre art pop, really, was incredible. And, you know, you had people dressed as in Chinese robes and all sorts of things going on. And his voice, of course.
Was that the one they had they had like a captain's hat on or something, like an airline captain's hat?
There is a bit where he's dressed as an airline pilot.
Yeah.
I mean, he's an incredibly good-looking man as well. I mean, they both were, but, you know, he seemed so delighted to be where he was. You know,
that's right. Yeah,
Of course, he would be miming. We know he would be miming at Stop at the Pops, but he just seemed so delighted just to be doing this. As always, like this is the best joke I could ever play on anyone. And Sulk, so after listening to Party Fears 2, I went out and got a Sulk, which was their second album, I believe. I think The Affectionate Punch was the first one. And it's just full of great songs like Club Country. And I think I'm right in saying it was the Melody Maker album of the year in 82 or 83. I should have looked that up beforehand. But it was, you know, that's how big an album it was in terms of critically. People just adored this record and adored the Associates. And again, a bit like Sister Feeling Skull with Simple Minds, I don't think they ever quite got as great again as they did with Sulk, but a terrific record to check out. You know, any pop music fan should do that. We're only a couple of albums in, Andy, so let's crack on with your number 3.
My number 3 would be Days in Europa by the Skids.
Oh, classic.
It's the first Skids record I ever bought, and I bought the one with the black cover, if you know the album, and there's a couple sitting at a table, because there was a controversial cover with the Aryan, you know, the Olympic.
Oh, that's right.
It was very, very, you know, like the sort of Aryan.
Like kind of Hitler Youth athlete
on the front, so get rid of that. Anyway, that was recorded at Roxfield Studios and the Manor Studio. I just found out today, so that is an incredible two of the iconic studios, Rockfield in Wales and Richard Branson's Manor Studio.
Oh right, so they were in among the big boys even back then.
Well, Bill Nelson produces it, so therefore I don't know who had the EBO first, but certainly Bill Nelson was using the EBO, which is a wee electronic device. If for people that don't know, it's a wee electronic device that makes the guitar string vibrate, and it gives you a sustained sound, rather like you were bowing the instrument. So there's definitely, I mean, for people that know Skids and Stuart Adamson, Stuart was a massive Bebop Deluxe fan.
Yeah.
And also a Nils Lofgren fan. Aye. And,
so are you suggesting that Stuart Adamson pinched Bill Nelson's EBO?
He might have pinched his EBO. I don't know.
And history was made.
I think he'd maybe gone, geez, I go with that. But no, I don't know. But anyway, this to me was a kind of proto Big Country sound, obviously. And I just loved that record because it was so... it just came charging out of the thing with animation, charade, and Days in Europa, Peaceful Times, all these kind of things. But these kind of almost boys' own type lyrics, kind of commando comic kind of lyrics.
Absolutely, I think that's absolutely right. Yeah.
You know, marching on, and I think a lot of the imagery came from reading commando comics and certainly First World War imagery and all that kind of stuff. So it was good as a youngster of maybe, I don't know, Ali, 12 or 13.
Yeah.
And maybe, I think I would have been.
But also, they were young guys themselves. So, you know, they
were really young, yes.
Yeah. That's what I mean. So their influences probably would have been that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, that's what I like about them, and I like Jobbo's lyrics. You know, they're kind of, you have to kind of try and unpick them, and I'm not sure. I don't think he's even sure nowadays. When I've heard people talk about them, he says, I don't really know. You know, they were just, you know, it sounded good. Well, they sounded good together sometimes, you know, but sometimes there were themes. But I really enjoy the lyrics, and
of course
they were.
Sorry.
I was just going to say, I like the lyrics that are not too described. You can kind of hang your own interpretation onto them. I've always enjoyed that about all the bands I like.
That leads very nicely into my next band. So Skids from Dunfermline. And the nice thing is here is that we're moving around the country. And I'm going to go for Grangemouth's Finest and the Cocteau Twins.
Oh.
Now,
superb.
This is not an album, it's an EP. It's the Spangle Maker / Pearly Dewdrops Drop EP, which was the first record of the Cocteau Twins I got. And was just mind-blown by this. Again, sound coming out of somewhere that I didn't even know where Grangemouth was at the time, you know, but to have a singer like Elizabeth Fraser and the sound that Robin Guthrie, is it? Robin Guthrie and Simon Rayburn.
Right, okay.
Kind of classic, for me, the classic Cocteau Twins lineup. And they were just making this ethereal music that you didn't quite know how to, again, you could hang anything you wanted on it because it was a mixture of language and noise and all sorts of things. I was thinking about the Cocteau Twins as we were, you know, talking about doing this, and what a run of albums they had in the 90s. It was just incredible. From Garland's right through to Heaven or Las Vegas, there was about 6 or 7 albums that are just all essential records, and all in the 80s.
There's a fantastic album that they did with Harold Budd.
Yes.
The Moon and the Melodies, I think it's called. And it's just astonishing. But yeah, I think again, when you find records that the sound is like, you can't go, oh, that's a drummer, a bass player, and a guitar player, right? Okay, and that's good. But when you get a record, you just haven't a Scooby what's making this sound. I mean, the Cocktail Twins records just came tumbling out the speakers, and you didn't know what was going on. You know, that all my favourite records, I think, are like that. You know.
Okay, what are your next favourites? Let's keep going.
Okay, I'm going to go for Heartland by Runrig.
Way. There you are.
There you are now. Because at the time, I think somebody just said, I think you'd like Runrig because they're, it's the kind of sound you like, and it's the sort of rock guitars. Yeah,
was it you like big country, therefore you like Runrig? Was that the conversation? Yeah.
That was basically, so many people said that to me and said, do you know what, that doesn't really compute to me. But this particular album, it's the only album I ever bought by Runrig, and in 1985's Heartland, and it's just a really beautiful sounding album. They've obviously spent a lot of time with the arrangements and the production, and I just love it. And even the Gaelic songs, again, no idea what it's about, but they give you a clue. Sometimes they give you the title with an English description. But I believe this was the first album they did with some English songs on it as well, right. Some English language songs on it as well, like The Everlasting Gun and The Dance Called America. And I think also at that time I was doing a lot of, it would have been 13, 14, so I was doing sort of outward bound holidays and stuff like that. It kind of went with all that imagery of going up the West Coast and wistfully looking into the distance and feeling the soil.
Do you think that they maybe kind of critically suffered against Clannad in particular, that they were doing something similar in Irish music, actually, I always felt that certainly they weren't critical darlings, put it that way. Not that you should be, not that that's important, but I always felt Runrig got a bit of a hard time.
Well, it was almost like being a Gaelic prog band. I mean, how more uncool could you get, but I just, it appealed to me, at the time.
Well, going from the home of the Gaels back to somewhere closer to both of us as youngsters, and I've talked about this album before, but I just have to mention it again. It's
East Kilbride's finest.
Highland, Hard Rain, East Kilbride's finest, just 10 minutes up the road from us.
Yeah.
When we were kids.
Actually, I'll argue that point with you later.
What do you think we were? Argue it now.
The Jesus and Mary chain, surely.
Oh, well, finest. I see what you mean. No. Yes, I get what you're. Yes, okay. I thought you were going to say that we lived further away.
No.
Anyway, I have a love affair with Roddy Frame, and I could have chosen other albums, but it always for me comes back to the debut, Highland, Hard Rain. I think it was released in '83 again. A great year for pop music. And he'd been around before then. He'd been with Postcard, and he'd released a couple of singles when he was like 16, 17 years old.
What, solo or as Aztec Camera?
As Aztec Camera, yeah. Just Like Gold, and We Can Send Letters were on Postcard Records.
Right.
And then we've got Highland, Hard Rain comes out. And again, the importance of a standout single, which was Oblivious, of course, which still gets played all over the place to this day. It's an absolute Scottish classic. But the album is incredible from start to finish. And he's my favourite guitar player. I don't have, I'm not really into my guitar players, but in terms of someone I want to sit and listen to play guitar, Roddy Frame would certainly be there. And he still plays live now and is as incredible as ever, and plays these old songs and plays new songs. And his recent songs are as good as his early stuff, but it was all there at the beginning. He always writes songs about love, basically, even called an album Love. And it's either about being in love or having lost love, or, that's what he writes about. He's an utter romantic, and his music's fantastic because of it, I think.
Also, he was one of those guitarists who could really, really play, but quite often the song wouldn't demand that there was a big widdly guitar part in it, so he would just not do it, and that's fine. But when he there's amazing parts in There's Somewhere in My Heart.
Yeah,
there's a fantastic guitar part at the end of that.
A bit like Johnny Marr, he could play incredible guitar, but often chose not to. He didn't need to show off. This wasn't about showing off. It was about the guitar that fitted the song at the time.
Yeah.
And I love that Love album, by the way. That I was going to pick that one, but it always comes back to Highland, Hard Rain for me. Okay, I think we're on to number 5, Andy. What have you got for us?
Oh gosh, we better crack on then, eh? Right, so I was thinking, how many Scottish people could I get? And there's this album popped up, which is one of my favourites back in the day, and it's an album by Robin Williamson and his Merry Band. It's not what Robin Williamson solo, but it's Robin's and his Merry Band, and it's called American Stonehenge, and it's like a beautiful time capsule of it's kind of folky, but there's I don't know how to best describe it. It came out in 78. It was written in 77, and I don't know. You just best go and listen to it. It's.
So you should say he was in the Incredible String Band, wasn't he?
He was in the Incredible String Band. He arrived on the folk scene as a fully formed beatnik, brilliant at guitar, brilliant at songwriting.
Again, a kind of child prodigy, wasn't he? He was like, he arrived and everyone, and he was just like, wow, who is this guy?
Yeah, who's that guy? Because he could play everything, and then they went on to do the Incredible String Band, and but I like the Incredible String Band stuff, and I have a lot of it, but I really enjoy his solo work, and the work with his Merry Band, who are Sylvia Woods and Chris Caswell and Jerry McMillan.
They were in very important musicians because they, in turn, eventually, because during the 80s, folk music, as far as I was aware, wasn't doing much in Scotland anyway. It was really sidelined. But these musicians, their music endured, and then went on to influence like Trembling Bells and Ali Roberts and many of the and now, of course, Scottish folk music and UK folk music is just incredible and doing amazing things. And it's all in there. It's all going back to a lot of that stuff that was happening in the 70s. And these guys were hanging about with, the poets and the writers and the comedians even of the day. If you go to
Connolly and all that lot, yeah. Also, all this stuff got re-editioned on CD, sort of late 80s, early 90s. So there was a whole new audience. They stuck on different covers, obviously, just keep them more up to date, and the music is timeless. When you listen to it, you think there's a couple of ones that are slightly funk influenced, and that sounds a bit odd, but it's enjoyable. Sort of funky folk, if you will, funk fusion, man. And but this one was recorded in California, and it is very Californian.
Was it? Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, no, it's a beautiful thing. It came out. Well, there's a re-release in 2006, as recently as that. But at that point, I was buying up all his stuff because I couldn't get enough of it at the time.
Yeah. But Scottish,
introduced. I was just saying it was all the guys at Peacock Printmakers in Aberdeen that introduced me to Robin Williamson and all that, because they were all playing it, and I thought, what is this? I'd never heard of it, which introduced me to John Renbourn and Bert Jansch and all these people. So that was an education in more ways than one.
Well, even if anyone has never gone and listened to it, if you go back to the Scottish folk music of the 70s in particular, but probably earlier as well, there's some amazing music there. Even like the early albums of the venerable Barbara Dixon before she became the third Ronnie.
Indeed.
A fantastic, amazing singer. And it's really worth checking out. And you can hear what
she's recently gone back to her folk roots.
Yeah, she's a great singer.
Yeah.
Okay, a band we've already mentioned for me, and I've mentioned many times, but it's the Blue Nile, but it's the 12-inch of Tinseltown Lorraine.
Yes, indeed.
So, which is on Walk Across the Rooftops album. But this, again, Importance of Radio, I first heard on Tom Ferry's show. I can remember hearing it for the first time on the radio, Tom Ferry's Radio Scotland show between 10 and midnight, and just going, what the hell is this? This is incredible. And it just made an immediate connection with me as a song that I almost knew at that time, I'm going to carry this for the rest of my life. It was incredible. It wasn't like anything I'd ever heard before. If I was still harbouring feelings towards kind of the metaler side of life, they went, because I went, no, this is the stuff I want to listen to. This is incredible. And then not long after, I went out and got the album. But yeah, so Tinseltown in the Rain, you know, on Hey, There's a Red Car in the Fountain. It's an iconic song for anyone who knows it. And still I play it regularly as much as I can. But so this was my first introduction to the Blue Nile, my favourite band. Yeah. Hat's my favourite album, but this is where it all started for me. Was Tom Ferry on a weekday night.
And I believe that Lynn Electronics put up the money they wanted, because their sound gear is like some of the top sound gear ever, they wanted to record this almost as a test record to show how good their gear was. I believe that's where the financing
I think that might be a little bit mythologized.
Right.
Having read the Alan Brown biography on it, I think it's not quite as simple as that, but it's a good story. It's a great story that's, you know, we need a record that's going to make our hi-fi equipment sound as good as possible. What have you got? Well, we've got these songs. And because
they're crystal clear.
Yeah. And the production and everything on them is quite astonishing. Okay, let's go into the second half of our choices. What you got next?
Right. Back in Black.
Hey! The Young Brothers.
Yeah, because the Young Brothers are Scottish, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
And there's not, you know, if you need explained why Back in Black is one of my favourite records, there's just not a bad song on it. It's the ultimate car album, you know, stick it on and off you go.
Well, I mean, AC/DC was certainly one of my first bands that I thought they are my band. They were just quite an incredible sound. And, you know, you could, if you wanted to use labels, yes, they're heavy metal, but it's just rock and roll and just really loud. And if you see any of the live footage from that time, quite an astonishing band.
Yeah. I mean, I don't actually have much to say about it. It's just a fantastic start to finish as a hard rock album.
If I was only allowed one hard rock album, I think it might well be Back in Black. I think that might be
a close toss up between that and Led Zeppelin 1.
Well, yeah, you might have a point. Okay, well, this is which is where I get a little bit not controversial. A little bit pushing the envelope for what we're calling Scottish, but it's Talking Heads,
right?
And it stopped making sense.
Right. Yeah.
So of course, David Byrne was born in Dumbarton.
I believe
you didn't know that. And Tina Weymouth is from Faithfully. No, she's not. I'm joking. Clearly joking about that.
Touche.
But this I got when it came out. I think I got it for Christmas and played it and just thought it was incredible. It was pretty much my introduction to Talking Heads. I'd heard a couple of tracks, but this was the one that I absolutely fell in love with the band. And again, and I just thought, they belong to be, you know, people, if you don't like this record, I might not like you, that sort of thing. And then you had Jonathan Demme's film that came along with it, which had the band all coming on stage and David Byrne's huge suit. But it was all about the songs, and the songs are amazing. And I think it's my favourite live album. There's lots of great, people say there's no such thing as a good live album. There's lots of great live albums. But this, I think, would probably be my favourite, Talking Heads and Stop Making Sense. And I'm going to claim it for Scotland right here and right now. Okay, Andy, on to your next.
Well, here's one for you.
Oh, you're fantastic. Right. Oh, that's made me smile.
Well, I know there's there's records that they brought out earlier that were probably more popular and more synth based and all that. But this one for me was the one that I listened to the most, and it's lots of.
So for those only listening to the podcast, what is it?
Oh, sorry. For people in audio,
yeah.
I'm waving at the screen here. Eurythmics Revenge, on vinyl, and
I think that's when their songs were getting better and better. The actual songs themselves.
Well, you had Thorn in My Side and Missionary Man and all that kind of stuff, and some of the slower songs I really liked. I think I was getting hormonal or something like that by that point in my life. So I liked all the kind of slow love songs on that one, and the kind of yearning that's on it as well. So I liked that a lot. I played it a lot. I had it on cassette. I've only just bought that quite recently, and belter.
Has that got You Have Placed a Chill in My Heart on it?
I don't think it does.
Oh, it doesn't. That's one of my favourites. But yeah, maybe the one after that, to be honest. But I do think that's when, although a lot of people prefer their kind of early ones, this was when things were, it was a bit like the Simple Minds stuff earlier on. They were getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Production on this is pretty big. And like I say, the slow kind of ballady love songs I really like them on that.
Okay,
brings a tear to my eye.
It's me. Well, this brings a tear to my eye. This is the Mighty Water Boys, and this is The Sea. I think the classic, for me, the classic lineup of the Water Boys, although they've been through many lineups of Mike Scott, Anthony Thistlethwaite, and Carol Wallinger, who went in to do World Party. The Water Boys, when they started, they had this idea of the big music. They even had an EP called The Big Music, and I think it influenced Simple Minds and influenced U2 as well. Some might say not for the better, but this idea that there was more to music than just in a studio, that there was connections. We know Mike Scott is a bit of a hippie, and after This Is the Sea, would go on to do Fisherman's Blues and the kind of raggle-taggle gypsy phase of his career. But the three albums for me that are the favourites are The Water Boys, the debut, Pagan Place, incredible record, second one, and then this was the end of that kind of cycle, if you like, and This Is the Sea. And with just stunning songs on it, like Old England and This Is the Sea, and songs that actually do get me quite emotional listening to them. They did back then, and they still do now. And I think Mike Scott is an incredible songwriter. But those three musicians are stunning. But I bet, were you ever a Water Boys fan?
No, I missed it at the time. I've since went back and listened to them. Yeah. But I missed it, Ali.
I mean, I've stayed a fan of Water Boys, and in fact, I was thinking about when I first saw them live, and how about this for a lineup? It would have been one of the big Simple Minds concerts in '86 at Ibrox, and it was In Tune You, Hip Sway, the Water Boys, the Cult, and then Simple Minds headlining.
Wow, what a night!
Yeah, what I remember is that there was loads of Cult fans who all left before Simple Minds came on because they didn't really want to hear Simple Minds. But yeah. The Water Boys.
Cool.
If you only had one Water Boys record to get, I would say get This Is the Sea. Okay, let's crack on, Andy. We're doing good.
Okay. Sunshine Superman, the very best of Donovan.
Brilliant. I mean, again, an underrated musician, I think.
I mean, famously bangs on about teaching John Lennon how to play the claw. If you ever see that, that's
I've missed that.
But I met him, and he signed my book. I went to see him live, and when he signed my book, he seemed a very, very lovely guy. And that, for me, when I was just about to leave school, I thought I was into Donovan. I didn't know Dylan at all. I didn't get Dylan, but until later. But Donovan was my guy going up to art school. I thought that was I loved the kind of the surreal nature of the songs, also the kind of whimsical, whimsy. Do we say whimsy? Yeah, that kind of thing. And I still listen to it quite regularly. I've got the best of Donovan tucked in under where I'm sitting just now, actually. Yeah.
I only found out recently that Jennifer Juniper was written about Jennifer Boyd, who was the sister to Patty Boyd, who had Layla and something, and various songs written about her. So
wow,
that's a little bit of triv. I'll tell you something else. Our mutual friend Colin Johnson once met Donovan.
Yes.
He was when Colin worked in the casino. He went to serve a table, and sitting sitting at the table was Donovan, Sean Ryder, and Jim Watt. I think this is right. If I made this up, he'll. And what a strange table of people. But it turned out that Sean Ryder, I think, was briefly engaged. I don't think married, but engaged to Donovan's daughter.
There was a thing, that's correct,
And so I don't know why Jim Watt was there, but anyway, that's always stuck in my mind about a strange table of people to go over to. But I think Donovan, made some incredible records and became a bit of a kind of, not a figure of fun, but I'd say that whole folk and hippie thing just wasn't really that big until later on in the 80s when the Mondays and the Stone Roses and the baggy movement started to reclaim a lot of the psychedelia of the 60s and 70s.
And the Nick Drake and all that kind of came in. But it was very, very easy to kind of lampoon that kind of stuff because it was so like hurdy-gurdy man and Mellow Yellow and stuff. And it was really easy to take the pee out of it. But it's cracking stuff. And Triv again, Jimmy Page plays on a lot of, he was the gun for hire on a lot of those Donovan records.
He was very well connected, no doubt. Okay, my number 8 choice, so we're getting there, Andy. And it's Wyn.
This is like a time trip for me because I've seen all these records I haven't seen for about 35 years. It's quite funny.
Brilliant, yeah. Well, I've kept all the vinyl. I've kept it all. And first, so Wyn were basically had moved on from the Fire Engines. Davy Henderson was in the Fire Engines, and he started Wyn. There was a single that came out from the Fire Engines called Un-American Broadcasting, which was very punky, very much like the Fire Engines sound, which was the sound of kind of Run Records in Edinburgh, Fire Records, Raw. And then it's also a version of it's also on Our Tears Baby, and it's really poppy because this is an album, and Wyn were a band where he was trying to make it as poppy as possible. He had, Super Popoid Groove is one of the names of the songs. Shampoo Tears, another cracker. And of course, You've Got the Power, which was used by McEwen's Lager in their advert about, the Escher thing and rolling up the hill, and really odd advert. If you've never seen it, Google McEwen's Lager, You've Got the Power, and you'll see one of the strangest lager adverts you'll ever see. But this was a great record. And again, it was the one that made me really fall in love with proper pop music, art pop music, going back to the Associates. It was there, and it's something that I've kind of always carried through. I'm a big fan of pop music when it's done, when it's a bit weird and a bit odd, and few people do that better than Davy Henderson, I have to say. Right. And he would go on to do like the Nectarine No. 9 and Sexual Objects, and he's still playing now, and he looks ridiculously young. He looks the same age now as he did when he was in Wind and the Fire Engines. But I'll check out the work of Davy Henderson, and particularly Wyn, because it's superb. Okay, Andy, we're there to number 9.
Number 9, mine is Darklands by the Jesus and Mary Chain.
People will be going, when are you going to mention the Jesus and Mary Chain? And, and of course we're going to mention it.
Because that's... I had the first record, Psycho Candy, and I liked that too a lot. And I really liked, there was a record called Barbed Wire Kisses, which was B-sides and things like singles.
Which is actually my favourite Jesus and Mary Chain album. That's the one I really like. Oh, no, it's not. Yeah. No, that's rubbish. Throned and, what's it called? Stoned and Dethroned.
Right.
That's my favourite.
When was that? When was that?
Yeah, but that was later. On you go, what are you saying?
Well, this one.
I'm going to check that out.
Yeah, no, this is my favourite one. Unfortunately, Bobby Gillespie's not playing the drums on this, but they went over to Drum Machine, I think, for this one. and it's a bit more, to my ears, it's a bit more melodic than the first one. There's less, it's less aggressive sounding, which I know a lot of people thought that was
the point.
you know, they'd kind of taken the edge off the sound, but I actually like the sound of this record, and it's yeah.
I think
so
again, it's a band getting more confident in themselves. Another East Kilbride boys. I remember seeing Jim
absolutely
going up the escalator in the plaza.
I saw him in the plaza once, and the big hair.
Yeah, with the big hair. Yeah, that's where they used to hang out, of course.
Yeah.
And it is Stoned and Dethroned. I thought for some minute I'd had a brain fart and that was the wrong name of the album.
Right.
But that one, that's a later record, and it's why I haven't chosen to speak about Jesus and Mary Chain, because I kind of knew you would. Okay.
Well, I like a leather trouser, you know that, Alex?
Well, I know you were inspired to wear a leather trouser by your bands. Which came first, the trousers or the bands? I'm not quite sure.
I'm not sure. I wish I could get into them, I tell you.
That would be a sight to behold. Okay, number 9 for me, another great, perhaps the great Glasgow album, along with Walk Across the Rooftops. It's Deacon Blues, Town. And
with the view from the chicken run at the art school there, I think.
Exactly.
I think
Oscar Mazzaroli picture. I mean, you know, you can hang that on your wall quite easily.
Absolutely.
And I mean, Deacon Blue. It was quite interesting. I was on Twitter and Colin McCready had put up the poster for Deacon Blue and Fairground Attraction at the Barras, saying that was his first gig. He came through, first Barras gig he came through from Perth for it. And that was my first Barras gig in, I think, 87 maybe. But Raintown, what a debut album. I mean, it's an incredible record. It's not perfect. I think Chocolate Girl's not a brilliant song, whatever, but it's got songs like Raintown itself, like Dignity, which is again another virtually a national anthem. The Very Thing, Loaded, great songs, and they've continued to make really interesting music across. Not even interesting music, because some people say it's not experimental, it's not, but they write great songs, and you know, are just a band that right from the beginning had the sound that they wanted to make spot on. And as I said at the beginning, we were going to talk about the albums that we played the most during this time, and I played the arse off of Raintown. I think it's a great record, and I will defend Deacon Blue to anyone who wants to take me up to task on it.
I've seen Ricky Ross play live solo, and he's just so charismatic. You know, he can just, you know, we had a video of them, didn't we, Ali, when they're at their peak, and it just couldn't take your eyes off the band and the chemistry between the singers and stuff.
The chemistry between Ricky and Lorraine was incredible. One of the great front twos, if you like, of pop music, and they were a proper band. Everyone was playing their part, and I think the first 2 albums are superb. Really, in fact, the first 3 albums. In fact, I could go on and on and on, because they're a band I've stuck with right through to now. They've just released a new one recently. They write great songs and are a truly great band, I think.
Cool.
So we're down to our last choice, I believe.
Right, I've kept my Desert Island Disc for last.
Well, good on you. I do know what it is, but before we get there, I should say I've been doing mine in kind of chronological order. Other order quite clever.
El Fascisti. Right,
Fascisti. Okay. But anyway, yes, let's reveal all.
Right, so to those of you who are listening, it's Big Country's The Crossing.
Oh, the red version.
The red version, which Stuart sent me down, not Stuart Adamson.
I was going to say Stuart Buchanan.
Yes, Stuart Buchanan. Very kind of him. But so this is just, I've got loads of these lying about, and I've got CDs and cassettes, and you know, and it was just at the right time for me. I think you had Steeltown, Ali. I got
Steeltown on the day it came out. I remember it was one of those albums that I did it with Frankie Goes to Hollywood as well, so you know, ups and downs. Right. But I went to HMV on not Gordon Street, whatever it was. Anyway, I went to HMV and there was the queue for it to open. You know, big deal. There was and got Steeltown on the day it came out, and it was a fantastic record. And yeah,
Gatefold Sleeve.
The Gatefold Sleeve, beautiful album.
Yeah.
But the Crossing.
But anyway,
it's probably
Well, I would say, you know, that in amongst the big country podcasters and so forth, who are all kind of pals now, I suppose. There's this constant to and forth between which one's better, and I think they're totally different. This is like
they are.
It's like town and country. This is the country record. That's the town record. But this again has that kind of boy's own quality. The kind of big adventures. I think one of the journalists described it as dramas played out under leaden skies or something. You know, it's that sound of, you know, potential adventure and this kind of boy's own imagery, which I loved. And I thought I would get sick of this. And I've gone through times where I've put it aside for a while, but I've never, recently I can play this. I play it several times a week at least and still enjoy it. And the guitar sounds are just incredible. The drumming, Mark Brzezinski's drumming, or Mark Brzezicki, his drumming is incredible on it. Tony Butler's bass playing is incredible on it. They were both prog. They came out the prog circuit and they were both Guns for Hire. The original Big Country had a different lineup, and then they got Mark and Tony in with Bruce Watson on rhythm guitar. Just very much a four-legged table, you know.
Yeah.
You know, it
Which
didn't
is the best
quite work. Yeah. Well, that's right. Oh, no. You could have a three-legged table, couldn't you?
You could. But what a live band as well. I mean, if you think it would go back to our teenage cassette tapes, watching the live footage of them playing the Barrowlands was incredible.
Well, you know, I mean, I would watch those things before I went to school just to get me in the zone before I went to school. I didn't really enjoy the school, but that's not true. But you know what I mean? It would get you ready to go out and do your thing. So yeah, I mean, they meant so much to me at the right time. So that's again a band that I would just I'd fight you if you
say you didn't like them.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, my 10th to round this off. Now, I probably should have picked Rattlesnakes, but I've gone with the greatest hits. One of their greatest hits album, but 1984 to 1989. It's Lloyd Cole and the Commotions. Rattlesnakes is their great record, their debut, but what they went on to do, I mean, the next Easy Pieces and Mainstream are both cracking albums. That was the three they did as the Commotions. Great songs right through. You had Lloyd himself, Blair Cowan, Lawrence Donegan, Neil Clark, and Stephen Irvin. They were a proper band. It wasn't just Lloyd Cole and some blokes. You know, the Commotions were a proper band. But Lloyd Cole, for me, was probably my favourite songwriter of the 80s. Only challenged, I would say, by maybe Paddy McAloon and some bloke called Stephen Morrissey. I don't know whatever happened to him. Yes.
Not shocker.
Whatever became of him. But yeah, that kind of really literary lyric that Lloyd, some people would have turned their nose up and went, this is pretentious pish. But I loved it as someone who's, you know, loves his pretentious pish. Lloyd
I love pretentious pish myself. Yeah.
Absolutely. I just love Lloyd Cole. Still to this day, I mean, last year he released the album Guessworks, which is one of the finest records of last year. I've seen him live many, many times over the years. And yeah, I'm a bit of a fanboy. And I couldn't not talk about the great... or the albums that influenced me from the 80s and before 1990 without talking about Lloyd Cole. So if you haven't seen that, that's the one of the greatest hits. I think it was the first greatest hits, and it's 1984 to 1989, and it's got some brilliant songs on it. And as you say, Andy, the Gatefold Sleeve, is it there? They all are.
He's so pretty, isn't he?
Yeah, of course. And he would go on to do great solo stuff too, but I still like to go back to the the old Commotions records, no doubt about it.
Mm.
Well, we've just about got through it, Andy. I thought it was going to take us about 3 hours to begin with, but we've clawed it back.
Yeah.
Before we go, I've got a wee treat for you. I was looking through the old vinyl and found this.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that's the first album you bought, isn't it, with your own money?
I think that might be, and the stickers are from an American Airfix plane, which I added myself.
So for those listening to the podcast, just audio only, it's Tony Basil's word of mouth. And underneath it is the record, the video, because I think it was one of the first things that they released the video for all the songs at the same time as they did the album.
Well, it has Mickey obviously on it, but it has other wee songs like My Little Red Book and things like that. And they're really, like I say, I enjoyed it.
Hanging around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's got time after time on it. It's not the time after time.
I think it's a different time after time. Yeah.
But anyway, just because I was looking for the albums to look through tonight, and I went, "Oh, look at that! It's a cracker. Not bad at all."
Mm-hmm.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed doing this.
I did. Yes, totally.
Excellent. We might do something next similar in the future, even if it's just for ourselves. But thanks very much for it, Andy. And this is our first Zoom podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. Hopefully, I'm going to be doing quite a few more with hopefully people that are completely different. But if not, just me and my brother again. And I'll say cheerio. Take care, Andy.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And
see you later.
We'll be back very, very soon. Cheers.
Bye.